Just wait for a few seconds for the clock to strike 6. And Uma suggests, can we just watch our natural breath for a few seconds? So we'll do that. So as we wait for the clock to strike 6, just for a few seconds, we can just be with our natural breath. We can breathe with our breath and also sense the space. Many of us have been here from morning 8. Several participants here have been 12. And some have come in and we have Kamali. So just be with your breath and just be with the space for a few seconds more. Thank you so much. On behalf of EYES, we welcome Kamali. EYES has crossed about 22 years. We carry the legacy. Kamali knows my dad pretty much. I guess at some point, my dad was, I think, boss or mentor, I wouldn't know. Some yeah, boss, okay. And then she became the boss of my wife. It's been a very interesting relationship with Kamali. I think I know her for 24 years, if I'm not wrong, 24, 25 years. And we intertwine, we go somewhere, we intertwine, we go somewhere, we go somewhere. So there's been some kind of a very deep relationship, I think, with Kamali, and as a family, as a friend. We carry a lot of similar aspirations. So she's in a way part of EYES also. Now and in the future, you would see that. And so I'm not necessarily going to introduce Kamali. Let's experience her, but I would introduce her more personally. She has something very, very, very deep to offer. Very deep connection to tradition, very deep connection to the world. Been very successful in all walks of life, you know, from a family to a school, college, to the corporate. She's come to a point where I think she's experienced quite a bit, risen up, seen quite a bit, and sitting on top of, let's say, I could say metaphorically, on top of a mountain, waiting to discover that yet another golden key to take her work into the social change, into a much larger sphere. So we are here to hear you, to get inspired and learn from you, Kamali. All yours.
Thank you very much, Dave, and good day to all of you. When Dave and his wonderful team connected with me and said they're putting this sort of day-long event together and said, could you come and share your story? As always enthusiastic, I mean, I said yes. And then I thought about, what is the story? Is there even a story to share? I mean, you know, there's lots of questions popped up in my head. You know, life can be a sort of a long string of experiences and events that I can come and unpack with you today. Or life can be few really crucible, meaningful moments that serves as a pivotal point. As Dave said, now you're at a point, how do you pivot from there to the next, and then to the next, and then to the next? In that process of long, deep, sincere discovery. I thought, okay, I'm not going to just come and download how I lived, where all I have been. But I'm going to unpack my life experience from the point of where am I today and how where all have I been has really contributed to be where I am today and how I show up in life with people here and now. Yeah. So that's the sort of the unpacking, and also I think there are experiences that really comes to shape you, stretch you. Some even come to shelter you. So today, I'm going to just sort of do a bit of a random wandering into my life. And I'm really thankful to Dave and the team for giving me an opportunity to sort of sit back and reflect on what those moments are, how have they contributed to me, and how do I process them today. So it's been an incredible gift. So I start with a big thank you for that, and let's get started. Yeah. So if I were to introduce myself, my life started as the first child, first daughter of my parents, and the first granddaughter on both sides. Yeah, from a very traditional, big South Indian family. Lots of people, lots of opinions, lots of rules, norms, expectations. It was really hard to have a voice and to be heard. Um, there were a lot of expectations, and I must say I was struggling as a little girl, who's the previous generation. There wasn't a lot of role models who went to university or who had a career or did something different. Yeah. So there was definitions, and then every time I showed up, I was a deviation. There was a design, and every time I opened my mouth and said something, I was a detour. So it was really hard to even see, am I right? Why am I feeling different and suffocated? I had this inner voice that wanted me to show up differently, be different. But there was also this enormous familial social pressure to just fall in line and sort of go with the flow, right? So why do you have to go against the flow? Um, I distinctly remember this moment in my life. I think I was about 9 or 10 years old. And one of my aunts actually assembled a few cousins of ours and sort of wanted to teach the girls how to dance. Yeah. So we were all learning how to dance, and the song, it was Independence Day time, and the song was one of Bharatiyar's song, which goes like this: Aaduvome, Pallu Paaduvome, Ananda Sudandhiram Adaindu Vittom Endru, Aaduvome, Pallu Paaduvome. Basically, let's dance and sing to the glory of the freedom and the liberty that we've accessed now. So 10 minutes, just 10 minutes into this dancing, I absolutely fell in love with those lines and the beautiful construction of the words and the literacy that was just, the wisdom that was just oozing through those lines. I couldn't dance anymore. So I went to her and I said, who wrote this? Where did this song come from? She simply directed me to my grandfather, who literally lived in a sort of a library within the house, which I had never noticed before. I went to him and asked him about what is this guy, what has he written, and so on and so forth. I could still remember the light in his face that somebody, so young is showing interest. So he introduced Bharatiyar to me. I think that's the best gift that I received, because his lines, his words added enormous meaning to the lonely voice, the feeble voice that was actually burning inside me to come out and show up and manifest in some form. Yeah. His words gave me the clarity, the conviction, the courage, and the commitment to stay on and to move on and to listen to what really mattered to me and not quickly sort of fall into and abide by the rule, right? So um, I also think I discovered through his lines more of myself. The more I read, the more I discovered myself. I mean, my grandfather also introduced several other writers to me. So I became very quickly a bookworm, reading and reading and reading. And my mom used to worry about that and would chase me to go and play more, be in the field, play more. So anyways, the lonely voice that was inside me was also quite scared. I mean, to be honest, I mean, let's ask here. Have you ever been scared? Have you ever been fearful of something? Could you just put your hands up so I don't feel very lonely sharing my story here? Have you ever been? Yeah. Very good. Excellent. So I'm not the only one who's scared. Yeah. So I mean, the lonely voice was quite scared. I mean, particularly when there is a norm and a definition and you're trying to really go against that. And you're not sure where you're going, yeah? But you know where you don't want to be, but you don't know where you're going. I mean, after years and years of experience, now I know that space is called the liminal space, right? You are not anymore who you were before. You haven't yet become who you wanted to become. And that space in between is quite a stressful space, very fearful, very, very unnerving, I mean, very disturbing. And the longer you can hold yourself in that space with calmness and quietness and stillness, then you're not rushing into becoming something that you're not, or falling into a line with someone else's definition of what success is. How can you be with yourself longer in that liminal space, fully acknowledging you've grown bigger than who you were before, but you are not yet come to the place of who you can become fully? My life experience as a 10-year-old, I'm not saying I mastered that. I befriended my fear. I still have fears, enormous amount of fears about many things I decide. But I do know when I am scared, I know I have moved into that liminal space. I've become bigger than what I was. Now I'm trying to do something different than what I've always done. So that brings in an element of fear. So now I know when I'm scared, I'm not getting off the vehicle. I just need to wear the seatbelt tighter. I just need to put my foot on the accelerator, not on the brake. Right? So those are some adjustments that I've made. So the first chapter of my story is all about, if you're scared, very good, you're human. Yeah, well, that's one thing everyone has in common. Yeah, we just saw how many hands went up. So how can we befriend this element of fear so that you can be fearful yet joyful? Yeah, that fear is actually a friend. Think about me. I mean, many of you know me personally. Some of you don't even know me. So from a distance, I can be quite scary. I mean, or I can be. You have lots of assumptions about me. Yeah. The closer you come, you see the real me. So such as fear as well. From a distance, it's just dark, it's unnerving, da, da, da. When you come a bit more closer, you get to see the root of where this is actually coming from. When you understand, then you can actually action it as well. So that's the first chapter that I want to unpack with you. So let's now jump into the university days. I always wanted to become a lawyer. Don't ask me why. Then the rest of the time I'm going to tell you only that story, right? So I wanted to become a lawyer because I always felt there needs to be more justice in this world. As a little girl, I had a lot of anger towards lack of equality, lack of equanimity, and so on and so forth. I guess it stemmed from my own personal experience of being treated differently, being given double-standard rules, and so on and so forth, just because of the gender. I wanted to become a lawyer always, but the family chose that's not a good career for a woman. So I went into a university course that I never aspired for. I never wanted to. It was sort of a last-minute first aid, sort of let's patch it up and let's put it in somewhere, right? So type of a course. I went into studying bachelor's business administration. Not a course by choice, just by chance. But then I was sitting there in the classroom, surrounded by friends and students who have done in their +2 commerce and accounting and finances. Here I come from a complete pure science background. I didn't even know what management accounting meant. And then the teacher started teaching about the rules of accounting, da, da, da. Every single thing went above my head. And I was absolutely devastated. Was I scared? Yeah, absolutely. But then I also told myself, I am here. Can I run away from here? No, I can't. So what can I do? I found friends within the class who will teach me how to learn basics of accounting. So I had to start 2 years before to get the basics in place. One thing I learned through this experience is when you have focus and attention, simple focus and attention, and backed up by hard work, nothing is impossible. So in that 3 years, that's what I did. Whatever I focused on, expanded. I put in extra hours. Okay, you will put 2 hours of education. I will do 3.5 hours. That's all right. I was absolutely willing to put in that extra effort. So at the end of the 3 years, and then the next 2 years that followed in post-graduation, I managed to come out of these courses as a university topper and with a gold medalist. Now, what did that leave me with? the value I attach to intelligence and the value I attach to hard work, that they're very different. Intelligence you can acquire. Hard work, you put in there, anything is possible. So for me, have I given my best to where I am today is critically important. The element of personal excellence, right? It doesn't matter what you're doing. It doesn't really matter. Even if I'm making a roti in the kitchen versus I'm writing an article versus I'm making up a policy or I'm doing a speech, have I given my best full self? That element of personal excellence, not because in comparison with someone, not because I want to be competitive, not because I want to win, simply because I want to give my full self to whatever I'm doing, whatever that is. Yeah. So that's the sort of the second chapter, and I continue to hold on to that element of personal excellence in everything that I do today. I'm going to take you to China with me now. Yeah. So in this long 25 years of career, I've had the privilege of living and working and meeting with some wonderful people through this career in different parts of the world, or more than a half a dozen countries I've lived and worked for in. So this is a story from China. So we arrive, it's hard, language barriers, culture barriers, I mean, everything we're navigating. And then in about 10 months' time after arrival, I am delivering a baby as well in China. So until then, some of you know that you've been with me in China days as well. One of the things that there's a brand that I carry. I mean, I am in charge. I am driving things all the time. Yeah, that's the brand I carry. So here I am, 10 months full pregnant, getting into the hospital. And then I'm lying on the operation theater. I have thousands of questions to ask. Who will I ask to? The doctors who can't speak the language very well. Of course, my husband is sitting there, but he's not medically qualified to give me the answer that I'm looking for. I'm just looking at lying on the operation table. I'm looking at all the lights that are above my head and all the faces that are hovering around me. For a moment, I was shit scared of what have I walked myself into now? And then they count stand. That's 1, 2, 3, and lift me up and move me to the operation table. And I'm thinking, oh my God, this is not okay. I've made the wrong decision in my life sitting here. Now the driver in me wants to be in charge even there. But I can't be. I'm not medically qualified. The language is not in the right place. There was just a moment where I had to completely let go and totally surrender. I don't know what I surrendered to, but I had to because I couldn't be in charge. I wasn't driving anything. In that moment of simple surrendering, all the scary faces that were hovering around me just disappeared, and all I could see is compassion, care, and attention. There was no language barriers. There was no culture barriers. There was nothing. I was in absolute state of comfort and bliss and was ready to receive the grace that was coming my way. It was a very emotionally intense experience. I mean, just being in a different location by in itself, different country by in itself can be stressful. And having a baby can be even more stressful. And then put both these things put together, then you are accessing a space that's beyond you. You don't have to face the life with everything that you have, but everything that you can access as well. So to me, that was an experience that really allowed me to sort of trust, let go, and look at the friends and the relationship that I have built around me. And let's start looking at people beyond the obvious identities that are there, right? So I learned the ability to see the good in people. I won't say just the good in people, but the God in people. We all say vanakkam. Yeah. I used to actually ridicule earlier saying, what, we can't come up with any other symbol in the culture. We also pray like this and we also greet people like this. Why? And then I became aware why we do this, because there is a God in me, so is there is a God in you. So the moment I see you, I say vanakkam. It is not just a gesture, it's not a greeting. It's a reminder It's a reminder for the God in me that I should bring the God in me, and I'm actually expecting to see only the God in you. So when I say vanakkam, you also say vanakkam. Yeah. Then the gods interact because there's other versions of ourselves inside, the devils and the demons and the whatnots. But in this interaction, I'm consciously and very mindfully bringing the God in me, and so do I want to meet the God in you, right? So to me, that was the next chapter that I want to sort of unpack, and that has had a profound impact on who I am and how I show up today. Um, Now let's then sort of move to the place I am in today. Yeah. So I'm in Switzerland, in Basel. Weather is definitely improving. I have to say that. I have no complaints. Winter is coming to a close and spring is beautifully blossoming. When we moved to Switzerland, this was a very different experience. Lived in Asian countries. I mean, there's a lots of buzz and lots of connections and people everywhere. I mean, this is an incredibly quiet place. Incredibly quiet place. I tell my friends, I walk out of the street and I can stand on the street for an hour. I will not meet a single human being. Right? So beautiful mountains, big lakes, and greenery everywhere. But then by yourself, by now you can tell I'm an extrovert. I like talking. I like going out with people. But just coming here, I felt like I'm an international person now. Can't meet up with anyone. And then we also moved during COVID time, and it was really difficult. I was complaining for a while, and then after a point, I said, okay, I'm not going to complain because I was tired of complaining, to be honest. And then I said, okay, when I stopped complaining and then start looking at why am I here? Why did life bring me to where I am at the moment? And then this realization occurred, which is around, you are very good in being with others. How good are you being with your own self? I really needed to be with myself. And the quietness and the stillness that was in the surrounding really caught up with this quietness and the stillness that I could possibly hold within, so I can see myself much more closer. I have to say, not everything that I saw I was thrilled about. There were things that I realized, oh my God, I need to work on this, or I need to change on this. There were so many parts of me that I never realized, pieces of me that I never realized that sort of somehow found place within me and was having an impact on the way I was showing up every day. So to me, this the seeking of this deeper meaning and purpose for this existence. They was talking about this, the urge to make a social impact and bring in something that's bigger than just having a title, making money, bringing up your own family, actually got more solidified by the silence and stillness and this space that I have been able to access here. Um, there is no external voice that's constantly telling me what I should be doing and what success is. There's a deeper inner search that's still unfolding. I'm not there yet, but it's still unfolding, but it's beautifully unfolding. Um, it has also helped me to sort of fill myself. I mean, the earlier speaker spoke about compassion towards others. It also helped me to fill myself with self-compassion. How do I process my own mistakes? How do I look at my own shortcomings? How do I forgive me for whatever wrong I've done in the past? Because if I can't do that to myself, if you don't fill yourself with self-compassion, you can't give it to others. You have $1,000 in your pocket. If I ask you for 500, there's a chance that you will give me. But if you don't have anything, you can't give it to me. So my simple rule is, you cannot give something that you don't have. If you don't have self-compassion towards yourself, if you don't have compassion towards yourself, you can't give it to others either. So to me, being here in this moment, in this place, has helped me to replace this righteousness, the need to fix things, or be in this mode of action with pure compassion, an enormous amount of gratitude, because truly you really cannot give something that you don't have. So that's the sort of my discovery in this space. They've introduced me, and I've had 25 years of really fruitful, challenging, stretching, but very rewarding career. Over half a dozen countries. I crossed 3, 4 different industries, multiple roles, 2 children and a husband, yeah, and an extended family that needs to be emotionally taken care as well. Life feels full, yeah. And there are times it has felt full and even overflowing. Yeah, I'm not going to pretend I've not had those crises. I've had plenty of them. And every time I've thought about, wow, that's it. I don't think I can pull this one off. This isn't going to work. I've really had the fortunate opportunity of finding strength through relationships. I'll start with my husband, who decided to put his career secondary to give my career the importance and the significance and the attention that it needed. Yeah. I met up with a very senior woman leader once, several years ago. I was sitting across with her and I asked her, so how did you get to where you got to? I was expecting her to tell me lots and lots of real insights from the career. She just looked at me and she said, I'm married, right? That was her first statement. And then she went on to say many other things. I can also tell today if somebody asks me, how did you get to where you got to? I'm also married, right? Yeah. Now, again, that's not the only reason, but of course there are other things as well. But that's a strong supporting pillar without which I can't get to where I got to. My mother, my mother-in-law, my sister-in-laws, and a whole host of friends who've been there for me and helped me. Now, why am I sharing this? Sometimes you sort of have this illusionary understanding that whatever you have today is created by you. What I have and what I carry today is a shared space. Every single one that has crossed my life has chipped in and has contributed. I might be channeling it. It is being channeled through me, but it is not created by me. It's a co-created space. I'll give you an example. I was a lousy cook, yeah, up until even a decade ago. Yeah, we were in China. Only after going to China, I realized, oh my God, I should have learned cooking. Until then, I managed with maids and that, mother-in-law was there at home. She took care of the home. My mom used to send spoiled brat. I never learned proper cooking. I learned how to cook Indian food in China, and through a big network of friends, expats, wives of expats who moved from India. The passion with which they taught me how to cook, the patience with which they listened to all the silly questions that I would ask. Some of them even came to my place to show me how to make it. I mean, it's incredible generosity, incredible generosity. Some gave me a hand in the kitchen. I mean, absolutely. Some took care of my kids. Some picked up my children from school when I got held up at work. Some taught to singing and dancing to my children in the evening so I can take a global call with the US. I mean, there's so many ways people have chimed in, chipped in, and contributed to what I have. I was listening to Thich Nhat Hanh the other day, and this story really, really, really opened my mind. He says, go out and take a look at the sky. I'm thinking, yeah, I can see the sky. And he says, do you see clouds? Yes, I do see clouds. Okay, a couple of hours later, what happens? There's no more cloud. Is the cloud dead? I'm thinking, no, the cloud is not dead. The cloud is now poured as rain. Okay, a couple of hours later, what happens to the rain? Is the rain dead? No, the rain is now gone into the soil. Okay, a couple of hours later, there's no more wet sand, wet soil. What happens? Probably the water went into the plant as a nourishment. Okay, do you see the water in the plant? No, I don't. It's become a flower or a fruit or something like that. So you take the fruit, you eat the fruit. Now he asks you, is there a piece of that cloud in you? Is there a piece of the rain in you? Is there a piece of the soil in you? Is there a piece of the tree in you? And I'm saying, yeah, there is. If without the story, if he had to simply ask me, is there a piece of cloud in you? And I'm thinking, what, are you crazy? I am Kamali, I'm not the cloud. But when you hear this narrative, you understand how connected this collective is. And what illusionary world do we live in, fooling ourselves and others, that the me is limited to this physical existence, this physical construct. To me, it was an enormously empowering space that just really opened up to look at the world very differently. So whatever we have is a collective property, is a collective space. If you choose to constrain yourself to this physical construct, then you're alone. If you choose to open yourself to the possibility that everything and everyone around you is capable of offering you, then you are truly resourced to lead a completely joyful life. I mean, to me, that was just one moment of awareness that just something opened inside me. And I was thinking about my China days. This story I heard after I moved to Switzerland. I was thinking about my China days. You know, all the friends that I'm talking to you about were housewives. They didn't have a career. But they perfectly understood what I was going through. They chimed in without me asking for. And I was thinking, wow, that generosity comes only when you start looking beyond the boundaries. So thinking through this concept of, gosh, I feel alone, is a myth. It's a self-imposed myth, because I know I've never been alone. I just thought I was. I am not alone, and I will never be alone if I really, truly take into consideration this whole idea of this collective connectedness. I mentioned earlier, my thoughts and my upbringing was largely shaped by Bharatiya's writing. A couple of years ago, we did some work with the Dev and team on just bringing back Bharatiya's song to sort of with a new light. So I happened to reread some of those lines. There is 4 lines of Bharatiya. I've read so many times. So many times, and I understand the meaning perfectly. And I will share those 4 lines now, and I will also share how I'm able to see those 4 lines in a completely different light today. He says, "Kakkai kuruvi engal jadi, neel kadalum alayum engal kuttam, nokkum disayalam naamandri verillai, nokka nokka kaliyattam." So what is he saying? Kakkai kuruvi engal jadi. The crows and the sparrows that are flying around belongs to my clan. Kakkai kuruvi engal jadi, neel kadalum alayum engal kuttam. So the long sea that you see, the tall mountains you see, they also belong to the same team and the group I come from. Nokkum disayalam naamandri verillai. Wherever you see, it's only us. It's only you and me. There is no other thing that is other than you. So there is one consolidated, collective concept of self. Nokkum disayalam naamandri verillai. Then what happens when you look at it like that, with that equanimity and unanimity and that singularity, then nokka nokka kaliyattam. The more you see, there is enormous, boundless joy that you can access from within. So with that, we only come to this place in different forms, shapes, names, and boundaries. It helps in the identity. Who are you? Oh, I'm Uma Narayanan. Who am I? I'm Kamali Rajesh. It helps in the identity. But what goes beyond these identities is the discovery. It's a true discovery. And if you can go down that path, there is a lot more strength that you can draw from each other. There's a lot more compassion that can flow without the limitations. And there's a lot more successes that we can collectively access as a society, as a community, as a country, and as a world. And I truly, truly, truly believe in that. And that's a search that I'm on to sort of connect deeper with the self and beyond. So that's my story. I'll pause here to see if there are any questions, comments, or is there anything else that you want to explore more deeper? I'm happy to. I'll pause there.
Hi, Kamali. This is Srinivas here. So just wanted to find out, you are talking about fearlessness or the fear that we always we find whenever there is a change in our life, right? Did you follow any techniques or something? How did you manage your fearlessness whenever there was a change?
Thank you very much for the question. I am going to just rephrase that a little. I am not fearless. I am very fearful. But I just befriend the fear, yeah, simply. And I activate the fear to activate me, not arrest me. How do I do that? I focus on my breath. That's absolutely important. The moment I focus on my breath, I know why am I actually scared. What's the worst thing that can happen? What is at risk? So yes, it is not only the logical questions that one goes through, uh, but also the emotional discovery of what's at stake for you. Yeah. Sometimes it's just your own expectations of, oh, this cannot fail. This can never happen. So some of those fixations and compulsions that we have in life are actually the ones that comes in the way and amplifies the impact of the decision that you're taking. So for me, a bit of a rationalization, enormous amount of focus on the breath, and more importantly, connecting with that emotion and saying, how am I going to channel this and befriend this so that it doesn't derail me, but it actually activates me. So to me, I also believe the whole world is just a place of energy is flowing all over like that. It's the question of your ability to turn the energy that's going negatively towards positive, and because the energy has force, yeah, it's something that's in motion. So how do you set it up intentionally? Because I also believe whatever you focus on expands. So are you mindful on what you're focusing on? Whatever you focus on expands. So being just mindful of that also has helped me immensely. And I actually look forward to that liminal space that I was just talking about earlier. If I'm too comfortable, when I decided to move to Switzerland, before that I was in Singapore, yeah, life was all set. I had a housemate, children were all in school. We were doing perfectly well. I could go to the temple I want, I could eat the favorite foods I want. Everything was ticking. And then I decided to move because it was too comfortable. There was no more stretch. So I said, okay, I'll give this a shot and see. Is it easy? Was I scared? Yes, yes, yes. It wasn't easy at all. But knowing that you've grown from the place that you were in, but you are not yet ready to go to where you are. Can you hold yourself in that space? Redefine fear as that liminal space, the space in between who you were and who you are not yet. That by in itself really helped me, and it continues to help me. Yeah.
I have a question, Kamali.
Yes, Aarti.
Your narration is just beautiful. It just grips you. You've described so many roles of you. Is there a role of a writer somewhere? Because the love that you carry for the language is so, evident. So I'm just wondering.
Yes, I'm going to have to say this very openly. I have brought this idea up many times in my head, and I've put that down myself as well. I have encouraged up, Aarti. That's the reality. Yeah. But I do know I am still in that liminal space. I am not going to say I'm not good enough as an author, then which means I'm going back to where I was, but I'm not yet ready to become a full author as yet. So I am dabbling in that space a little bit now. I'm writing something, so I don't know if it will come out, but I'm writing something. But I also do taken up bringing Aarti into new light. So I'm doing several podcasts on that. I've done 50 out of this 109. The next 25 is coming out next week. So, in my own small ways, I am holding myself in that liminal space and experimenting what is possible. Yeah, and I do know, but without big fixed expectations, because it's the expectations that starts bringing in that self-criticism, saying, oh, you're not trying hard enough, you're not doing that, you're not doing this. No judgment, a lot of self-compassion. Then I'm ready, I'll be ready, because the world is not coming to an end because I'm not writing, is it? It's me who will think that I'm not good enough as an author. I need to push myself. So let it come when it is ready. But I do know I will one day. Yeah. But thank you for asking that.
Kamali, may I ask you, you very nicely mentioned that you actually live and practice a life of gratitude. What really is the role of generosity within that space?
Beautiful question. You know, sometimes when people show up in your life, we take them for granted. I mean, of course they need to. Of course they should. Of course they will. Yeah. Just taking a moment for me to say nobody has to, nobody should, nobody have to, but they make a choice to do whatever they do. Now, generosity, in my view, is not the big thing that they do, even the smallest thing. I'll give you an example. I was in China, and 3 months into pregnancy, I really couldn't cook the food that I ate. That's a moment of truth. I couldn't eat the food that I cooked. Yeah. So that tells you how tolerant my husband was. But anyway, so I just couldn't eat, and I was really struggling with the food that I was eating. And one day, I won't even call her as a friend at that point in time. She was a colleague's wife. She happened to hear the struggle I had, and she just simply said, "Don't have to worry, I'm going to send you food tomorrow." For 5 months, she sent me food, lunch every single day. And I can't really explain why and how. I really cannot. That's possible. That's absolutely possible. That to me is generosity. I didn't ask her to. In fact, I felt very obligated when she offered. And I came up with cock and bull story telling her, you don't have to. You really don't have to. I'll manage myself. Or I have made other alternative arrangements. She actually asked me, what's the arrangement you've made? Because it was a bluff. I couldn't give her an alternative arrangement. She simply said, it's okay. I'm not asking you for permission. I'm just going to send you. So you know what that did to me is to say, gosh, if she can do this to someone that she doesn't know. She also says, what do you do? I'm just a housewife. I tell her, you're not just a housewife. Just don't say that, because you are much more, much bigger in your generosity to be there and be there when it really counts. And I truly believe that ability is there within every single one of us. We just need to be reminded, am I bringing the God in me, or am I bringing something else? It's a conscious choice. And I don't want to sound like a saint because I'm not. I can get angry, I can get nasty, I can get all of that is part of me. I'm not going to pretend that's not. But when it matters, can I bring the God in me? And can I do more of that and less of the devil and the demons? Then I am trying every minute to be the human that I am supposed to be, to bring in the generosity that I am capable of, and offer it with no judgment, unconditionally. Then what a wonderful place this world will be. And I wonder. Yeah.
Very nice. Do you still draw boundaries?
I do draw boundaries. And that comes from the space of self-compassion, because I can't be there for everyone all the time. I know when I can and I know when I can't. And I'm not afraid of saying that either. Yeah. So, boundaries and identities are critically important. So are the connections and generosity. It's a question of balance. Yeah.
Nice. Thank you so much. Very nice.
I appreciate that.
Kamali, this is Unni here. Just a quick question. The difference between emotions, okay, bringing emotions into the success of the career or success in life, and how do you balance between emotions and our duties? When I say duties, I'm talking about 360-degree.
Yeah. Okay. So that's a very good question, and I'm glad you asked. There are people who I speak to, and they say, "Oh, I'm not a very emotional person. I'm making this decision unemotionally," and I have something to offer to them. If you are keen in understanding the brain, as I am, and with my latest fascination on neuroscience, there's this little part in your brain. in this limbic system called amygdala. Yeah, that is responsible for all the emotions. That's the seat of the emotion. That also helps you in navigating, that helps you in the lots of functions, but primarily the seat of emotion. Now, when a thought comes, when a sense comes, all of this passes through the limbic system before it gets into the sort of the prefrontal cortex, the cerebrum, the cerebellum, all that. So already that impulse, whether the chemical or the electrical impulse, is already dipped in deep emotions before it goes into the thinking space. So the whole idea of, oh, I'm an unemotional thinker, sorry, buddy, that's just our own sort of, illusion that we hold. So emotions are energy in motions, and it's absolutely part of who each one of us are, whether at work or at home or in a social setting. That's why we are a social animal. So now, having said that, I'm also a big believer of regulated emotions. Yeah. What amount of emotional expression is adequate to bring in the motion and the impact that is required? It's not just unraveling and just being sort of an emotional chaos all the time, but just being absolutely human. And are you in touch with that emotion? Because that limbic system is exceptionally powerful place. If you say, no, I'm unemotional, then it only simply means that you are not aware of the root of your emotion. Just get in touch with that to see how empowering, how powerful, and how self-aware you will become, and how self-adjusting you can possibly be by just being in touch with that emotion, whatever that emotion is. But feeling that emotion is your right. Regulating that emotion's expression is the right of others. That you need to respect as well. Oh, I am angry, so I'm going to throw up all the tantrums possible and kick and scream. That's not okay. I am angry, but I have the right to hold that emotion. So just bringing some of these disciplined and educated choices around how you play with the emotions within your own self, so that you are able to create an impact that is useful for others. It's a critical skill. Emotions are too hard and too deep and too difficult to manage. So I'm just going to pretend I don't have them. That's not a good place, because then what happens is it piles up and it piles up and it piles up and it bursts up somewhere. Yeah. So how do you acknowledge that it exists? Just imagine I am the emotion. Yeah, I am the emotion. I am in the room. You continue to ignore me. Will I be happy? One day I'm going to tell you who I am. That's what is going to happen, isn't it? So how do we acknowledge the presence of that, but regulate the expression of it in a way that creates the impact that we want to create collectively? Yeah.
Thank you, Kamali.
Thank you. Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. Can I ask one question?
Please.
So this may feel a little deviated from the discussion, but I have this conflict, and hence I thought I'll ask your views on it. So what I have heard and understood so far is that when you are on inner journey and you start seeing interconnectedness, there's a moment of doing everything very consciously and being conscious of that interconnected as well. Now in corporates, I've seen, I feel that we are always onto the mode of more more consumerism, and that kind of decreases our consciousness, the consciousness with which we consume things, with which we look at things. So these two look like a contradictory views for me, that one person who is on an inner journey and looking at things more consciously, and then working in an environment which basically promotes consumerism and a behavior, or a less conscious behavior. I am not able to basically put these two things together in my life. So if you can share some views here.
Well, it's a very practical question. I mean, if your inner world is evolving at a pace that is faster than your immediate outer world, then what you're expressing is likely to happen, isn't it? The dissonance the disturbance, the inability to reconcile the beauty of the inner world's evolution with the outer world's readiness to receive that. Now, that's one way of looking at it. The other way of looking at it is this whole idea of the sort of the osmosis. Yeah. If the inner world evolves, can it manifest in the outer world? In a way, it's not going to change tomorrow, but it will start rubbing off. I mean, I was talking about earlier about my time in Switzerland. When I stopped complaining about the tall mountains and the big lakes and no people scenario, there is a stillness that came in. There is the silence that came in. And I still can't figure out how that stillness got rubbed off into my inner world. If there is so much of rubbing off that the outer world can do to your inner world, why can't your inner world do the same to the outer world? It's possible. The question here is the signal in your inner world ready enough, strong enough to start manifesting itself in the outer world? Some of us are not there as yet. You know, you see people who have an idea and they manifest it and they can just multiply it like that. Some of us are still figuring it out. And all of these journeys are critically important, and it has to evolve at a pace that it is ready to. So in a corporate setup, it is hard. It is not easy. It is hard, but it's not impossible. It's possible. Within your space, how do you treat each other? You don't need a manual for that, do you? So in every single human interaction that you are capable of having, that you are given as an opportunity to have, what are you doing with that? Are you bringing the God within you, or are you bringing something else? So that's a question. That's a simple question. You know, there are times for me being right was more important. Not anymore, because right is a very subjective term. What is right to me might look like being too strict to you. Today I practice the same technical capabilities with much more compassion, patience, and understanding of people. I mean, to me, I had to become a mother not just once but twice to just get in touch with that. My children brought that aspect of me and solidified that for me, I would say. So it's possible, but you need to focus more on strengthening that inner signal and commitment to bring the God in you all the time. And it's when the signal is strong, then it becomes your nature. Yeah. Then you are not in that liminal space anymore, that you have become what you wanted to become. Then once you know something, there's no way you can unknow it. Once you've become something, there's no way you can unbecome. So, yeah.
Thank you so much. That answers my question.
You're welcome.
I think there's a last question, Auntie.
Can I?
Yeah.
Hi, Kamali. Sumati
Hello,
here. It's such a delight to listen to you again. What struck me as you were sharing, and I want your reflection on that, is you have broken the so-called glass ceiling, which everybody talked about 10, 15 years back. The women have to break the glass ceiling. But you did it from what all you have described in your journey as a professional growing in the corporate world. I think it is the feminine energy of doing things with a broader perspective. That is what I'm seeing as a evolving within yourself. Your comments on it. I'm using feminine energy because the masculine way of doing it is very different. Initially, women had to become masculine in order to gain an entry into the corporate world. Then they realized it doesn't work that well. So you are an example of how feminine energy can come and become successful in the corporate world in our own way, in the women's perspective way. I want your comments on that.
I couldn't agree with you more, to be honest. When I was very young, I had the opportunity to be the HR head of the manufacturing facility in Chennai, Ford manufacturing facility. I needed to show up tough. I needed to be firm. I needed to be much more masculine than what I was actually ready to. And that seemed to work. That really seemed to work. I mean, I met up with wonderful set of people. I mean, the time at the Ford plant is one of those times that I would absolutely relish and remember always as something that that really shaped my career. But even there, I'm just going to take a small detour. I know some of the Ford friends are there in the line today as well. And what I'm sharing is a shared contribution from all of us together in this space. You know, we did a lot of things together. We were making decisions, you know, we were taking tough decisions, driving results, you know, all of those masculine stuff that you can talk about. But there was a very difficult strike that happened in the plant. And then we had to take some action against people who were sitting down and striking. Instead of taking the normal route of let's line up and punish everyone, we took a step back and we said, what can we do to rechannel this energy? I mean, that comes only from a feminine space. Your ability to pick up people from where they are, not where you think they should be, and not punishing them for that, and seeing the good in everyone and saying, oh, okay, let's give them another chance and see. Yeah, we were breaking a lot of corporate rules then, but that's okay. We kicked off something that would rechannel the leadership, untapped potential in those young workmen into career opportunities, into shaping them into engineers and even general managers. You know, 6, 7, 8 years ago, I'd left Ford by then. Someone actually from the plant sent me a photograph of a big cake that was being cut in the canteen that carried this number 1000. And I called up and asked, what have you sent me? Then he said, this is 1000th promotion through the initiative that we put in place, I don't know, 10 years ago, where blue collar workmen had the ability to go and do bigger and better things in their career. I mean, to me, even if you look at my entire career, I mean, I have another 7, 8 more years before I say, okay, that's enough, right? That's enough of corporate life. This would be one contribution that will always top my list. I won awards, I done global programs, but this one will always top my corporate list achievement. Not because it ticked a box, because it made a difference to 1,000 people's life, their livelihood, their families, the next generation. It contributed to the society. And those of you who were there with me in this effort, we did a job. Yes, we did a job, but we did that with heart and soul. So that to me is a feminine energy. And that comes with that humility, that compassion, that motherly forgiveness and whatnot. And it's not a bad quality. I mean, it's not something that you need to shy away from. You need to fully embrace that, celebrate that, and amplify that. I mean, that's what the world wants out of us, the future leaders. That's what the world needs. I mean, you look at what's going on in the political scenario, the war. I mean, you know, we need more love and compassion, more understanding and forgiveness. That's what the corporate world also needs. It just doesn't know as yet that's what it needs. Yeah. Once it realizes that, you will see the glass ceiling being thrashed by many women climbing up rather quickly.
Thank you, Kamalis. That was a wonderful answer.
We kind of thank you a lot, Kamali. We have a minute and a half to move into the next session, Chitra. Yeah. So for the participants, kindly take a minute or so to access the link and share the qualities that you got in touch with, that you soaked in Kamali's presence. And in a short while, in a minute and a half, we have Chitra who's here as a next speaker.
Thank you all.